Hi, it's me, Charity Lowe. Today I am going to be giving you part 2 of how to draw an 18 by 24 inch portrait using Vinci Eye. So let's get started. I'm currently on breakdown mode. I have 5 different steps and I'm just going from darkest to lightest in each little section at a time, drawing in circular motions using the side of the pencil. The purpose of drawing in circular motions is that when you start to blend, it will create a smoother texture. Now I'm blending, and I'm also blending in circular motions. I start blending in the lighter areas and then I end off in the darker areas. Now I'm turning off breakdown mode and turning it back on again, increasing the exposure as well as maximizing the steps. This helps me find the darkest areas of the portrait. And I'm going to be going in with my black watercolor pencil and fill in those areas. Now I'm going to go to breakdown mode again, turning it off and on, and then I'm going to decrease the exposure. This will allow me to find the lightest areas of the drawing. I'm going to be using my small mechanical erasers to erase those areas. These are the steps that I use to create my portraits, but if there is something that is easier for you or something that you prefer to do, go ahead and do it. There is no right way or wrong way to use the app. Now I've turned off breakdown mode, I increased the opacity and also turned on strobe. This will allow me to see the difference between the drawing and the original photograph. I am using my black watercolor pencil for the really dark areas. I'm also using the 4B pencil to darken up the mid-tones and also blending it to the lighter areas. I'm also going to be using the 4H for the finer details like hair strands. I also use the knead eraser to lighten up areas. The knead eraser doesn't cause any sharp lines, so it's great for highlighting areas on the face. For the hair, I am drawing with lines in the direction of the hair. I'm also using my tiny mechanical eraser to highlight the hair. This was a very long process. It took multiple days to complete. So don't feel stressed if you only get a little bit done in one day. Here I'm using a 4B pencil and a knead eraser. This will be softer transitions from the shadows to the highlights. I'm just trying to make it so it's really hard to tell the difference between the drawing and the photograph. The more time you spend on each section, the more details you can get, the more realistic the portrait will look. Now that I've finished the top half of the portrait, I am going to realign the image as best as I can to what I've already drawn. The reason why I am drawing her in two different parts is because if I were to draw, I cannot comfortably see the image at the same time. So I have it as high as I feel comfortable while looking at the screen and drawing at the same time. Now I'm just repeating the steps as I did for the top half. I'm going to breakdown mode. The exposure is going to be in the middle, and I'm going to have 5 steps. I'm using 4 different pencils that have different density, and the density of the pencil is what determines how dark it will get. The pencils that I'm using is 8B, 4B, HB, and 4H. 8B being the darkest and 4H being the lightest. I'm going step by step from darkest to lightest in one section at a time. Now I'm just blending it out. I'm going to breakdown mode, turning it on and off again, increasing the steps to the maximum and increasing the exposure. Just trying to find the dark areas of the drawing, and I'm going to be using the black watercolor pencil to fill in those areas. Now I'm going to go back into breakdown mode, turning it on and off again, keeping the steps at its maximum but decreasing the exposure. So I can find the lightest areas, and I'm going to erase those areas. Now I'm turning off breakdown mode, and then I'm going to strobe, and I'm also going to increase the opacity so I'd be able to see the original photograph compared to my drawing. And I'm going to try to make the drawing undistinguishable from the original photograph. Now I'm just comparing the original photograph from my drawing, and I'm going to be adding some details that I've missed. So now I'm just using some water on a paintbrush, and I'm going over some dark areas to give it more depth. These areas have been drawn over with the black watercolor pencil. Now I'm going to be using some white acrylic to brighten up some of the highlights. Now I'm going over some areas with some chalk. This allows me to blend a little bit more, making it smoother. The customer was quite pleased with the finished result of this drawing, and it was sold. But this pretty much concludes the end of my video. If you have any general questions about the app, you can contact the app creators at davinciieapp.com, or if you have any requests for future videos, you can contact me directly on my Facebook page or Instagram at Charity Lowe's Art. Experiment with different mediums and different techniques to find what works best for you. Keep on creating, and I'll be back soon with other videos.